All right. Okay, just bear with me here. Okay, so we're going to start off with a little music as we always do. Losing My Religion. Here we go.
Losing my religion because it lost me. Don't want to lose my head because I gotta be sane to maintain my identity. So I keep waving the flag of victory. Trapped in a cult for over 40 years. As an adult with childhood fears. Fear of Armageddon, fear of destruction, Satan the devil, demonic instruction, fear of the elders, fear of leaving, fear of staying in, fear of grieving. The family I will lose, the friends will be lost, shunned if I choose. Such a great cause, must obey my conscience and not preach a lie. Millions now living will never ever die. Like Brother Farr said, and people sacrifice. Now they are dead, they wasted their life. But the Father observed, yes, he took note. They will be rewarded, they still have hope. But what about us, the ones left behind? Who do we trust, since control of our minds? Yeah. Losing my religion because it lost me. Don't want to lose my head because I gotta be sane to maintain my identity. So I keep waving the flag of victory. Trust in God, trust in His Son, trust the written word, not organization, not the false prophet in bed with the beast, misleading God's people with lies that they teach. 7 wicked men pulled up in Brooklyn, taking in donation, calling it crooked, investing hedge funds, misappropriating money. Kingdom Hall thieves is really not funny. Time to move on, get out of here, my people. Babylon the Great, no longer we sheeple, no longer pushing carts, littering streets, propaganda for the elites, a publishing company, a pyramid scheme, spinning your wheels, destroying your dreams. But now we know what's up, we see behind the curtain, not fooled by the lies, 7 frauds are working. Yeah. Losing my religion because it lost me. Don't want to lose my head because I gotta be sane to maintain my identity. So I keep waving the flag of victory.
Okay, everybody. Thank you for spending your afternoon and tuning in with us here on the Cult Free Network in collaboration with the 6 Screens. So glad that you made us a part of your day. We have a very nice and I'm excited about my interview today. I have a friend of mine that I've gotten very acquainted with online, and we're going to be working together on a few projects. His name is Manny Mimoso, former JW, former ex-Jehovah's, well, he is an ex-Jehovah's Witness. Manny, you there with us?
I sure am. Thank you for having me, Dave. Josh.
Oh, great. Great. Glad. Yeah, well, as you know, let me just get right into it and explain that. I'm known online, for those who are calling in for the first time, as David King, and that's a pseudonym. That's not really my real name. My real name is Josh Rivera. Why do I have a pseudonym? Why do I have a fake name? Well, I'm recently out of the organization. I disassociated myself back in July, not that long ago, and it's been about 2 years of awakening, of just, really doing a lot of research and really finding out the truth about the truth, the so-called truth. And what had happened was, when I was doing my research and discovering a lot of things about this organization, I was still in a lot of fear. Fear is a big tool that this organization used to control people, and so I was afraid of people knowing who I was online, so I made up a fake name, David King, as a pseudonym as I started making friends and making connections in the XJW community. What had happened was that once I finally did disassociate myself, I went back to my original profile, which is Josh Rivera, my real name, but people kept calling me David King, so it kind of stuck. So I kind of feel in a lot of ways Josh Rivera died when his heart was broken, when he found out the truth about this organization. And now that I have no more fear, I feel I've been reborn, so to speak, as David King. So it kind of just stuck. So it's all right if you call me David, Manny.
No problem. I think I call you both, depending on when you call me or when I call you. I think I've called you both. So.
Yeah. So sorry for that long-winded explanation. It's all about you today. I'm really interested in getting to talk to you. I mean, we've had quite a few conversations, and I had to tell you, please don't tell me anymore. Don't tell me anymore because I want to save it for the interview, right?
Yeah. Actually, we spoke a little over an hour ago, and
yeah,
I kind of started spilling my guts to you, and you had to kind of shut me up a little bit because I was spoiling it for you, and I didn't want to give away all the details.
Yeah, look, like we were just mentioning earlier, we're very unscripted here. We like to give people realism. We give it to you straight with no chaser, so to speak, as a term, as a figure of speech, so to speak. We really like to be genuine, and so many people, even some who said, I would never have thought to do something like this, have an interview online to expose my true feelings online. Many people have told me they usually feel a lot better once they do, and people seem to really react well and feel better and feel a lot of healing that goes on by doing this, by sharing in the community and showing support. So once again, I know I keep saying it, but thank you for coming on here today with us.
I appreciate it.
So Manny, let's get right into it. So how does it feel to be an XJW?
It feels great. I wouldn't call myself a typical XJW because I think I did everything backwards. I started fading and have been inactive for, I want to say, about 13, 14 years now.
Okay, so don't mean to cut you there because I kind of went ahead. Why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself, your background? Where are you originally from?
I was born in Lisbon, Portugal, and I came to the United States when I was 5. Grew up most of my life in New Jersey. Spent a little under a year in California. Currently, I reside in Bel Air, Maryland, and in 3 weeks, I'll be heading back to California.
Oh, wow. So pretty storied life. Portugal. So do you sprechen the Deutsch or the Portuguese?
That would be, I think that was Dutch that you just said, but
okay.
I actually am fluent in English, or I like to think I am, Portuguese and Spanish. Okay,
very good. Muy bien, excelente.
Gracias.
Yeah, usually when people know Portuguese, the transition to Spanish or vice versa is pretty easy.
It is. It truly, truly is. I went to a Portuguese hall most of my life growing up.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, wow. That's very interesting. So we'll get more into learning about that and how that was like. So do you have a lot of family in the organization that are still Jehovah's Witnesses? I
don't. I have an aunt in Portugal that's still a Jehovah's Witness, and that's about it. Both
really? My
parents and my sister have been awakened. They're out. My mom has been out for about 2 years. My father has been out for about a year now.
Oh, that is so awesome. So it's a lot we could talk about here. So there's, let me make sure I understood correctly. All these people in your family are out, so there's no more witnesses within your family?
Just an aunt in Portugal that nobody talks to. But then again, that's
so you guys shun her, or just?
Pretty much, yeah. We shun her.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. So, how did you come in contact with the witnesses? Were you born in?
No, I was not, and it's a constant debate I have with my XJW friends. Which one is worse, being born in or being converted at a young age?
Thank you. Oh, I want to hear this. I'm sorry. I'm getting excited because I know a few people that are very annoyed that have not been born in, and they feel like they're marginalized. Like they feel like, well, you don't understand. Your struggle is not like ours because you weren't born in. So I'll let you go ahead and talk about that.
So the way I look at it is imagine, okay, so I had Christmases and birthdays and parties and all that good stuff and family, cousins my age, up until about the age of 9. So my parents started studying a little bit before my 10th birthday, I want to say. So I had all those festivities, all those celebrations and everything. And then from one year to the next, I celebrated Christmas, and then I didn't. So I compare it to having all 5 of your senses. So imagine being able to see one day and then not.
Never really thought of it that way. Yeah.
I can understand being born in, but what's worse, never having something and not missing it, or having something and not being able to have it again? Because my relationship with my family, aunts, uncles, and I have a pretty large family. My father was the youngest of 10. So I literally still have cousins to this day that I have never met. So it was a really, really large, huge family. I mean, our Christmases were the typical style Christmases that you see on TV. You know, large family in somebody's house, spending it overnight,
big holiday ham,
big
football
holiday
on TV.
ham. Well, for us it was soccer. Soccer for us. But yeah, your typical Christmas. So they started studying a little bit before my 10th birthday, and then they stopped shortly thereafter. It was kind of on again, off again. And then my middle sister, Vanessa, was born. And the doctor messed up royally, almost killed my mother. My sister didn't get enough oxygen to the brain and developed cerebral palsy.
Oh, wow.
So what happened? While my mom and my sister was still in the hospital, my dad's first resort was to call the elders because he had already started being indoctrinated, especially because his sister is also a JW.
Oh, wow.
So not being a publisher, not being baptized, gone to a couple of meetings in a matter of a year, he was already indoctrinated. And all he remembered was watching the kids sliding down the giraffe's head and riding on lions and all of that. Basically, 10 minutes after my sister was born, the doctors told my parents, hey, your daughter's going to be a vegetable for the entire span of her life. So my mom and my dad clung on to the witnesses, and the witnesses clung on to them with the hopes of eternal life, paradise, perfection, and all the other stuff that they fed us.
Right.
So that's how we became indoctrinated. That's how we converted.
So ultimately, what happened with your sister?
She passed away in October 30th, 1999. She was 7 years old.
So sorry to hear that.
She was 7 years old. She's in a better place now. She's at peace. She's not suffering anymore. She spent most of her life in and out of hospitals, so it wasn't a life to be had. It just wasn't a life to be had. So
did the blood issue come up, if you don't mind my asking?
The blood issue did come up, but my sister never, ever needed a blood transfusion. So I was told. The truth is, I found out the truth about that probably about a year ago, that as my parents were Jehovah's Witnesses, they authorized, I believe it was a blood pathogen, which at the time was not allowed, but now is, transfusion. Wow. So they authorized that from the doctors prior to it being allowed, so to speak.
The irony of that is just amazing.
Yeah, and every time I tell the story, I can't get the image of that Awake magazine with all the kids on the cover that lost their lives because they said no, or their parents said no to a blood transfusion.
Yeah, that's why I say this is such a very dangerous cult, because not only because of the suicides and the mental illness and stuff that you see and the separation of family and all that, but when you look at the thousands of people that have lost their lives due to blood, I mean, right. It's a lot to me, it's the most dangerous cult on the planet, because when you add those numbers up, that's a lot more numbers than Jim Jones or Heaven's Gate or any of those other cults, you know?
I'm glad you said that, Josh, because I always associated with that as well. There's no difference between saying no to blood and drinking the Kool-Aid.
Yeah, it's the same thing. So, wow.
The only difference is a lot more people have died because of saying no to blood than Jim Jones.
But that's why I think that's why I'm so passionate about what I do and what we do. I know your presence online as well, because a lot of people don't know about this. They don't make the connection. They don't see the danger. And so that's why we try to raise awareness,
Correct.
So that was your introduction to the truth right away from the beginning, life in the situation with your sister. So your father, he wasn't even baptized or anything at the time, huh?
Nope, and he was already calling the elders, because, of course, the first thing that they remember was everybody, at least in Portugal and where we come from, everybody associates the Jehovah's Witnesses with no blood.
Right.
So the first thing that he did was call the elders. They came over. I was 10 years old at the time, so I really wasn't in the hospital. I'm going by, what my mother has told me and what I remember. And to be honest with you, I remember those years more vividly than I do my early 20s.
Yeah. And something, we're so indoctrinated, as you know, I'm not sure if you know, while we're talking now, there's something called the video suite where people chat and they see a video of me talking. And to show how indoctrinated I am, Denise Richard just said, let me know that I said, introduction to the truth, I called it. I didn't call it a cult.
Yep, you just did. I was going to point that out, but I don't want to upset the host.
Yeah, but that's how powerful it is. Just if I could give you just a quick small experience, one of the things that helped me to wake up, I was studying with my brother-in-law shortly before, and that's why my family thinks it's so crazy, because I was just so adamant trying to convince somebody to come into the so-called truth, and then I leave it. But I felt like I was hurting him. I felt like I was hurting him because he kept feeling like fear, and he's like, I can't get over the fear, the whole fearing God. And I will tell him the classic, well, it's not a fear of a dread, a terror. It's a fear of displeasing someone you love. Well, he got sick. He was in a nursing home recovering from back surgery, and there was a complication, and they had to go back in. And he was really into it. He was reading all the publications. He had his insight book. I had him. By the time I was done with him, he had read the whole reasoning book almost from cover to cover, and he was arguing with all the people, with other patients. The priest that would come in. I mean, he was like a walking JW pretty much. And then it came time for him to take blood because there was some complications. And do you know that he started fighting tooth and nail not to take blood, and he didn't want to take it. And they said, well, can you please reconsider? And they're like, well, what we're going to do, we're almost positive they were saying that they were going to need to use blood. And he gave all the classic canned responses, that, it's just a messy doctor or unskilled doctor that has to rely on blood so much, bloodless surgery, bloodless ministry, blah, 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 blah. And then they finally, thankfully, they convinced him to take blood. He said, all right. And then he felt so terrible about it. He felt so destroyed that he took blood, And that really affected my conscience. So finally when I woke up, I'm like, thank God I don't have that on my conscience,
Right.
But the whole reason I didn't mean to go off on the tangent, you said your father was just so afraid and adamant and just, about the blood issue. It's just something about what the witnesses do and the formula they have and using God and using fear and using the hope of a paradise that's so potent and so powerful that gets people to feel like the right thing to do is to allow their son or daughter to die on that operating table and not take blood. So that's how powerful this cult is.
Right. It's a dangerous cult. I'm not going to use the term they put the fear of God in you, but they put the fear of 7 old men in Bethel in you.
Yeah, yep. Because they equate those 7 men with Jehovah.
Correct. They think that even though those 7, as far as I know, I've been out for a long time, as far as I know, they don't go around telling people that they're inspired by God.
Yes, they do. They absolutely do now.
They do. They do now.
Things have gotten, they're like rock stars now. They love the limelight. They're not the faithful and discreet of when we were in or your parents in. This is not the same organization.
Yeah, there's nothing faithful and discreet about that one guy's $20,000 Rolex, I'll tell you that.
Exactly. Wow. So, how was it for your family? Did your parents just jump in gung ho right after that incident?
Gung ho, head first into a pool with no water. Wow. I mean, it was one day my dad was getting ready to take me to Little League practice, my first ever Little League practice, and the next day it just went away because organized sports are bad for you unless you're the Venus and Serena Williams.
Right.
It's just, and I'll throw in those jabs every now and again just because of the hypocrisy. It's just so blatant and so obvious that it almost angers me. No, it does anger me that not a lot more witnesses are awakened or awoken by everything that's going on right in front of them.
I know there's like a veil that's there, I mean, there's so much that I see now that I saw back then, like everybody knows about Charles Taze Russell's pyramid just about, well, most of the old timers, and right. They just put it out in the back of their mind like, oh, it's nothing, it's no problem, and now because of the internet you have, so much that's being exposed, and even when you show people that, it's just like a deer in the headlights, right? It's like a deer in the headlights. They don't
know what to do, right?
Yeah.
And you know what? When these questions would arise, and I would ask people about them when I was younger, because when you're young, you're fearless. When you get older, exactly. When I got to like 14, 15, I was actually afraid to ask questions. But when I did ask questions, it was just, the answer that I always got was, it's another form of Satan trying to mislead you. It's a form of persecution. We're being persecuted everywhere.
Right.
And we have this generation now. It's a lot easier to get information. For example, my version of Google when I was a kid was the Encyclopedia Britannica.
Did you see that meme that was going all over the internet on all the groups? Google back in our day, and they had the Encyclopedia Britannica on there.
Yes, and that's where I got that from. I mean, it's the best analogy that I can go to. I mean, you can type in Jehovah's Witnesses, and there's so many XJWs that have their own websites. So many experiences.
I know it's not just
there.
Facebook,
It's not just Facebook. I mean, back then, if what's happening in Australia right now with the Royal Commission had been going on, you'd maybe catch a smidge of it on the 5 o'clock news. Probably not. But now you can follow it, listen to it, watch it almost like as if you were there for hours on end.
Yeah, in real time. Yeah.
In real time, exactly. We're in the information age, and this is one of the things that I believe is going to eventually lead to the demise of the Jehovah's Witnesses.
Yeah, sometimes I like to just tell myself, don't get too overly jealous. And there's there's devil's advocates, so to speak, to say, the organization has deep pockets, and still, and they are very powerful. We don't have no way of gauging how much money they really have, and there's definitely a demise, but that it'll never totally dissipate within our generation. But sometimes I wonder, I feel like we're really ripe for a mass exodus. I mean, we see it happening so much, so many people leaving, especially in the groups. So, I'm very encouraged by that. What do you think about that?
I agree. I'm on the fence with you on that. I want to believe that we'll see it in our lifetime, but again, we don't know how deep their pockets are. We don't know what politicians they have in their pockets. Because, I mean, let's face it, for them to be a quote-unquote charity and not be taxed, and basically their charity was just donating to themselves for all these years, they have to have somebody in their pocket.
Oh, definitely. Definitely.
I don't know who that person is. I don't know who those people are, but it's common sense.
Right.
I mean, how
when
does
they have their annual meetings and their corporate meetings, they have people that's on their board, and Rick knows a lot more about this than I, and he explains it a lot better than I can, that are not even, on their board of trustees, I think that it's called, they're not even Jehovah's Witnesses.
Right.
A lot of their lawyers aren't even Jehovah's Witnesses. So I did some research on my own. I don't know how reputable it is, but if you do some research, if you type in Watchtower Lobby, a lobbyist, whatever, it shows that they have lobbyists too, just like any other political organization. So, that's why I'm glad we do this show, because there's witnesses that actually listen on the cover, and we want them to be aware of all these things, that's going on within the organization. Now, you said your parents went in gung-ho, so was your father ever an elder or anything like that?
No, my father was never an elder. My mother was never a pioneer. It's almost like both of them lived vicariously through me. So my summers off from school, even before I was baptized, if I wasn't in the hospital helping my parents with my sister from a translating standpoint, because my parents did not speak very good English at that time.
Oh, really? Okay.
So there I am, 12 years old, spending my summer vacations either preaching, being a auxiliary pioneer.
Goodness. I could imagine. Oh, my
or
goodness.
I was in the hospital with my sister and my parents translating, and whenever I did have some downtime, I was going around giving tracts and brochures to everybody in the hospital.
Mm.
And that's the life of a 12-year-old kid, And mind you, just 2 short years prior to that, I was spending my summers with my cousins, riding our bicycles up and down the sidewalks. Playing football, playing soccer, playing baseball, doing what you're supposed to be doing when you're a kid.
Right.
And from that age, I've always been a very observant person. I can be very vocal at times, but I like to pick and choose my battles. And I saw and overheard a lot of things in the Kingdom Hall that I went to that something just did not feel right. Something did not feel right. Even at a young age, it just did not feel right within that.
Oh, yeah, that goes into one of my questions. What were some of the things that, gave you pause, that, made you think that, hey, something's not too kosher here?
Well, one of the things that I witnessed from, no pun intended, from a young age until I finally had enough, was parents grabbing their kids and taking them into the coat room. It was a big hall, so we actually had the main room, the secondary room, and then a third room, which also was a library/coat closet. So parents would literally take their kids to that coat closet and, for lack of a better term, beat the crap out of them in order to get them to be quiet. And
they had this corporal punishment that just makes you just they knock the fidgetiness out of you. You know what I'm saying? And I got beat by everybody in the hall, not just my mom. In one sense, it caused me to know how to stay still and pay attention for a long time. But I was a very hyper fidgety kid, But yeah, a lot of that goes on. So wow.
Right, and you know what, man? A 4, 5, 6, 7, 8-year-old kid is not supposed to sit still for 2 hours. They're just not. They're supposed to be watching cartoons, coloring, doing whatever kids that age do.
Right.
That was one of the things that just lingered with me. One of the big things that really was the politics within the Kingdom Hall. The eldest kids always got away with murder. Always got away with murder. I went to high school with one of the elders' daughters, and let's just say she was a completely different human being outside of the Kingdom Hall in school.
Right.
And I did what I was supposed to do, confronted her, told her, hey, you're not supposed to be doing this and this and this. And then, go to the elders, and it was kind of like, don't worry about it. Her father's an elder. He'll take care of it. So it was the politics. It was the hypocrisy. And then, there was a bunch of other little incidents here and there. The big one, the straw that broke the proverbial camel's back was I had started living a double life when I was about 18, 19 years old. And, I was reading the Watchtower on our meetings were on Saturdays. I was reading the Watchtower, every other week or once a month, whatever it was. I was helping out in the theocratic ministry school. I was counting the money. And then one day, two of the elders came up to me and wanted to have a meeting with me about they prayed to Jehovah, and Jehovah told them that I was ready to become a ministerial servant, that I was a man of God, and I don't remember all the exact words, and I'm trying to translate from Portuguese to English. And I said, okay, that's awesome. And, whatever the procedure is to officially make you a ministerial servant, they said they would need to meet with me again the following week. And I'm driving home, smoking a cigarette, okay, after the meeting.
Wow.
And I'm sitting there, and I'm perplexed. I am just perplexed. And I'm like, you know what? This is a bunch of BS. I'm sitting here living a double life. I had a worldly girlfriend that nobody knew about. I was preaching, but I wasn't. I would create the groups. We would have preaching Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays, Saturday mornings, and Sunday mornings. And on the weekdays, I was in charge of the groups. And I would always make it so that me and one of my other friends ended up going preaching together. And we would actually go to the local bar and just shoot pool for 2 hours.
Oh, wow.
And I'm just like, we would go up to the doors and fake ring the doorbells.
Right.
One time we actually got caught.
Oh, wow, fake ring the doorbell. I thought I was the only one that did that.
No, one time we got caught because the homeowner happened to be on his way out. And he's like, why didn't you guys ring the bell? And we're like, well, we did. He's like, well, is it not working? I'm like, I don't know. I started to panic. And he starts ringing the bell a lot. And he's like, see, it works. He's like, my wife will be right down. I got to go. And then, of course, his wife comes down. She's all mad thinking we were the ones that rang the bell like that.
Oh, my goodness. That's too funny. It's kind of like a reverse thing. You have people, I'm not trying to act like I'm the paragon of virtue or this great thing, but that struggled and anything they said, stand on your head, do backflips, take the group out, just so that I could get that mic in my hand, just so that I could finally get privileges in it. I made it to become a ministerial servant. I wasn't doing the double life thing, but they made it so hard for me to get any little scrap of a privilege. And then you're here thinking that, well, Jehovah doesn't sees me worthy. I'm not fit, whatever. It's not my time. And then you have people like yourself, and I'm not trying to knock you or anything like that.
No, I know where you're going with this.
Israel Ricky Gonzalez, I don't mean to name drop him, but he tried to encourage me one time not to even worry about that because he was an elder,
Huh.
So it's like you have people that really could care less, don't want it, and they're throwing it at them, and then you have the people that really want the privileges that can't get it, and supposedly this is all being directed by the big HS, the Holy Spirit. Well, something's really wrong with that Holy Spirit. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it was, so after that happened, I kind of, I kind of went up to my parents and told them, hey, I don't want to be a Jehovah's Witness anymore. I got baptized when I was 14. I didn't know any better. I thought that's what you needed to do to get saved was just get baptized and then you were good. Then they throw all these other things at you once you're baptized. So it's like the rules are always changing.
Yeah,
so
it's not the end, it's just the beginning, right?
Right. So I ended up telling my parents I didn't want to be a Jehovah's Witness anymore, and they said I had to be, because all they kept thinking about was, my sister has since passed by then, and now it wasn't the hope of my sister being, healed and perfect and everything. Now it was the hope of seeing her in the new world. She was already there waiting for us.
Right.
She was already there playing with the lions and the deer and the sheep and the goats. She was already there. She was just waiting for us. Now,
not the goats. They don't like goats.
They don't like goats, right? It was one of those. It was one of those. Do you not want to see your sister? Do you not love your sister? And in the back of my mind, as selfish as this may sound, it's like, of course I love my sister. Look what I just spent the last 7 years of my life doing for her. And because of her, and because of that idiot doctor. So, I ended up going to live with a friend for a few months. Had a tough time finding a job, no skills, no college, no nothing. Had a tough time finding a good job that could pay me to stay on my own. And, went back to my parents with my tail between my legs, and I was like, look, can I come back home? And they said, yeah, as long as you start going to all the meetings. They're like, you don't have to.
How old were you around this time?
I was about 20.
Okay.
Right around 20. So they're like, you have to go to all the meetings. You have to go preaching at least once a week. Basically they said I could come back home if I did the bare minimum. And let's be honest, going preaching once a week and going to book study and going to the theocratic ministry school and going to the Watchtower and public talk, I'm like, damn, the bare minimum, I'm still wasting a crap load of time.
Right.
This is still very time consuming. So then I left again, went to go live with another friend, came back again, because again, I couldn't.
I give it to you though, but you kept trying. You kept trying to make your life and break away. So I give you a lot of props for that, a lot of respect.
I appreciate that. It was not easy, man. I mean, I went from living in a basement apartment in the ghetto that would flood at the thought of rain, that when I would turn the lights on, the cockroaches would scatter.
My mom's laughing at me listening to you because I went through the same thing. Go ahead. I was in a basement apartment in Brooklyn.
There you go. I was in Newark, so kind of the same
so
thing.
we know.
Yeah, we know. And now I'm.
And the lights never stay on, right? There's always power outage. The roaches. I don't care how many bombs or how clean you are. Living in the cities like that, and then like you said, the drainage. You're right there in the gutter. You're basically living in the gutter, not even as a figure of speech. It's like all the water has to go somewhere.
Right.
And the cold. Oh my goodness, and the humidity. So you just made me have a flashback. Go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. It was a studio basement apartment, so my living room, my dining room, my bedroom was all in one, and I would buy myself, dinner, like a dinner for a family of 4, and I would make that stretch for 3 or 4 days, as much as I possibly could. And now I look at myself, and here I am, 2 weeks away from signing the documents to sell my house, just so I can move on with my life. So, I'm very, very proud of myself. I've stayed humble through all of this. For the most part, I did reach a very, very rough patch in my life where I thought I was invincible, and I hurt a lot of people along the way. And if any of those people happen to be listening, I sincerely apologize. But I am happy for who I am today. I am proud of myself, and I'm humbled. So
absolutely,
I couldn't do the back and forth thing with my parents anymore. So I finally got myself a good job, left my parents' house, and the first opportunity I got to leave the state of New Jersey, because I wanted to start fresh, I took it and I moved to Maryland. I was close enough to my parents where I could visit them and they could visit me, but neither party would take the risk of just showing up and, unexpected and unannounced, because it is a 3-hour drive.
Right. So it's interesting. You were able to break away, so you physically moved to another state, but you weren't so far that you broke, the ties of communication with your family.
Well, the one thing that I've learned about being in a lot of these XJW groups is that the rules are different. The rules are different. For example,
would you say depending on what congregation, or depending what language group, or depending on what state?
Yes, to everything. Everything, Josh. Yes to everything. Because there were rules that were enforced in the English halls that were not enforced in the Portuguese halls. See,
same as in the Spanish.
It's the same thing in the Spanish halls. It's
a lot more relaxed.
A lot more relaxed. The family bond is greater than anything. Even though I did not want to be a Jehovah's Witness anymore, I never disassociated myself. I never got disfellowshipped, although I was in 2 committee hearings, got away with both of them because I used their books against them. But that's a whole other story for another day. And that familial bond is always there. Now, I have friends that were in English congregations that are in the same situation I am, not disfellowshipped, not disassociated, but their parents choose not to associate with them because they no longer believe what they believe.
Totally cut off, like that. It's a dead to them, right?
Exactly. It's like you're almost better off being dead, because at least then you'd have hope of being resurrected, right. Which is a shame.
I'm not twisted, just the twisted. You hear yourself. I hear myself talking or hearing somebody, and it's like, I used to believe this stuff. It's crazy.
Right. So and the reason why I say I did things backwards at the beginning of your show was I left, I faded, and then only about 2 years ago did I really start researching. And a part of that was I was kind of questioning myself, saying, what if they were right? And another thing, a lot of the people my age and from, about 10 years older than me, so people that are now in their mid-40s to their early 20s that were in my congregation are all gone for the most part, are all gone. That elder's daughter that I told you about in the middle of the call, she's still in, and her family's still in.
Well, she has a firewall protecting her daddy,
Exactly, so. And I didn't start researching anything until about 2 years ago. And one of my good friends actually, I was talking to him, and he's like, dude, don't be crazy. He's like, I don't participate in any of these XJW groups, but I watch, I learn, I research. So he got me involved in the XJW groups, and I started learning, like, hey, the way I'm feeling, I'm not alone. And this whole time I thought I was alone. For all these past 10 years, I thought I was alone. And I'm sitting there, and I'm like, oh, my God, that guy's story sounds just like mine.
Yeah.
So it's like a rabbit hole, Josh. The deeper you go, the deeper it gets. And I know from the research that I've done, I'm nowhere near the bottom. I'm much closer to the top.
I have a saying that I say to people, and I know people think I'm crazy. And I know there's people in the XJW community that I used to think were crazy when I first started coming out. I say that, the Watchtower is just one layer of onion that's a lot deeper, that has a lot of other layers, There's a lot of people I feel that are in the XJW community, I'll just come out and say it, that think they're awake and they're really not awake. And
right.
But by you saying you did things very backwards, let me tell you, just so you could know, I do this show almost every week. I've been doing it for almost a year now. And I would say a little more than half the people that come on here were people that were either disfellowshipped, dissociated, whatever, for years. Some 20, 30 years. The Watchtower was still in their brain. And
right.
They just now, recently, the last couple years, were able to break free. Even though they were disfellowshipped for years, they just broke free because they did the research and because of the groups, especially on Facebook. So it's a story we hear over and over and over again. Even though sometimes you could get a little bit out of balance, I do sometimes, and I spend too much time in the Facebook groups, but they are so important because that's where you learn, and that's right. where you get to connect with people like we connected and find out about other things and resources like this, like 6 Greens, like Witness Recovery 3, JW Struggle, AWA, Vast Apostate Army, all these different groups and organizations and stuff that are really helping to raise awareness about it. So, one of the things I neglected to say, because we went right into the bad stuff, is there anything good that you could say that you got from being raised in Jehovah's Witness? Is there anything good or anything you missed?
I learned how to do public speaking without being nervous and without much preparation.
I tell you that's for sure.
I can get in front of one person. I can get in front of 1,000 people. It doesn't faze me. I'm not nervous. I don't get nervous. One of the best talks that I ever gave, I was high as a kite.
Really?
Yeah, and that's one of the other things that kind of woke me up was people after that talk was, oh my God, that was one of the best talks I've heard. You're coming up.
Yeah, because you were flying.
I was. I had just hung out with some buddies, and I'm not a pot smoker. I never really liked it, so I might have taken one or two puffs, but I was in the room with them, so I got that contact high.
And so you were really, really feeling it.
I was baked. I was like Cheech and Chong, and I think it was like one of the first or second times.
Well, I bet you were up there. You saw Revelation, the Beast of Revelation, Ezekiel's temple vision, the 7 trumpets. You were able to explain all of that, weren't you?
It was actually, I still remember to this day, it was about David and Goliath.
Oh, wow. So you probably brought that story alive.
Yeah, I did. I was very visual. I had no problem using gestures. It was not a problem for me whatsoever. And the irony of this entire story is the brother that gave me my study when I was a kid, is also the guy that gave me my first copy of Crisis of Conscience.
Wow.
Yeah. I actually spent a day with, he was disfellowship, and he had 6 elders at his judicial committee. They had to call elders from another district because what this guy reads, he retains. He's one of the smartest people I've ever met in my life. And they actually had elders in his congregation that said, no, I do not want to be a part of that judicial committee because I'm afraid for my my spiritual health in speaking with, that brother.
Sounds like he was a bad boy.
He did a lot of research. I don't remember exactly how many hours they were in there for, and the person that ratted him out was that aforementioned elder's daughter, because she happened to notice that he liked an apostate YouTube video, and from there it just started snowballing. And at that point, he was at a point where he was so out of it that he didn't even care. He could have denied, oh, it must have been a mistake, I was hacked, whatever. He's like, no, yeah, I liked the YouTube video. Well, why did you do that? Oh, because they were right. And that's where it all snowballed from. So when I heard he got this fellowship, my mother called me because my parents were still in at that time. And, of course, my mom was like, hey, you're not in. Can you just call him just to see if he's okay? Because that's the way my mom is. She didn't care if you were disfellowshipped or not. She would always, if you were disfellowshipped, you came to a meeting, she'd give you a smile, she'd give you a wink, she'd wave. She would do whatever it took. If she was in the bathroom with another sister that was disfellowshipped, she would have a full-blown conversation with her.
Yeah, I could never follow that rule. Something
I couldn't either.
I would always talk and be like, why did I just talk to that person? It's just so unnatural.
Right. I mean, I'll go and knock on somebody's door who's a complete stranger, and I don't know what's going on in that guy's head, but I can't say hi to this guy? Are you kidding me? Doesn't make any sense. So, and then throughout the years...
Manny, something else. I didn't mean to cut you. Go ahead.
No, it's all right. Go ahead, Josh.
No, I was going to ask you, you seem to have a lot going on in your life now that's really positive, and you've been able to really transform yourself. Why don't you talk to us a little bit about that? Like, you're out of the organization, your family's out. What have you been up to? Like, what kind of advice can you give us that are listening that have just left out? I'm recently out, And what are some of the things or the tools that you've used that's worked for you to be happy and to keep your sanity leaving this horrific cult?
Well, leaving the cult, we all have many, many things in common. One of the most important things is none of us have any friends when we leave this cult, for the most part. So depression sinks in, anxiety sinks in, PTSD sinks in. We start overthinking things. We start dramatizing situations. Can't sleep at night, get chills, have nightmares about Armageddon, which I still have, almost 15 years out. I still have nightmares about Armageddon, and it's always the same one. It's always the fireballs outside of the Kingdom Hall and me just grabbing two little kids and just start running. Why I'm running, I don't know. Where am I going to go? The fireball's going to hit me anyway, so just end it quick, That's my common sense. Stay positive. Always try to look for the good in people, even though it can be tough at times. Not everybody's out to get you, which was my biggest problem. I mean, my circle of friends is more like a triangle, still to this day, because it's like the old saying goes, I trust everybody. It's the devil inside of them that I don't trust. And that comes from being in the organization. It's like I trusted these people that were older than me. I trusted these people that were my friends, but they were misleading me the entire time. And we kind of got to come to reality that they're not misleading us because they want to mislead us for the most part, because they're just as indoctrinated as everybody else within the Kingdom Hall. So I've battled with depression. I've battled with anxiety. I was on a lot of different medications, from Xanax to Lorazepam to, oh man, the names just, they're escaping me right now.
Lorazepam, lithium, Klonopin, Abilify, Selecta, citalopram.
Anything that ends with pan, I've taken.
Wow.
And it was one of those feelings of being robotic. I've never told you this, Josh, but I saw one of your posts the other day, and I'm like, man, that was me a few years ago. Coming home from work, 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, broad daylight outside, and I'm laying in bed because all I want to do is go to sleep.
Yeah.
Because I don't feel comfortable in my own skin, because I can't look at myself in the mirror.
Exactly. Something, and, I was feeling like that a little earlier today. You were trying to cheer me up. That situation we talked about actually improved. We'll talk about that a little bit more offline, but all I wanted to do was just curl up in a fetal position just before the show and go to sleep. But knowing that I had this commitment with you and with all the listeners has helped me to, to stay going. This conversation is so good. We're starting to run out of time a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about the health and fitness. That's really what I wanted to get into too, mainly. Tell me about that, because we still want to have some time to open it up to some questions. But what have you been able to accomplish with that?
Well, I got sick and tired of paying an arm and a leg for medication. I got sick and tired of having medication telling me how I'm supposed to feel. So another XJW friend of mine, a very, very good friend of mine, introduced me to something called Keto OS, which basically it enhances the ketone levels in your body, and it has a lot of different health benefits, from cognitive to energy to fat loss to a bunch of other things. So long story short, because I don't want anybody to think I'm trying to plug a product here, I have not taken any prescription medications for depression or anxiety in 2 months.
Wow. Well, you're not going to plug it, but I'm going to plug it because you convinced me, and I started taking it. My JW, soon-to-be ex-wife, started taking it, and she's going to start telling people in the Kingdom Hall about it. So it's a good supplement. Go ahead.
And you know what? The other thing is, now I have all this energy. What am I going to do with it? So I go to the gym every day, and I'm able to go to the gym every day because this product helps with the inflammation. So, that burn, that old saying, no pain, no gain. Well, that's a bunch of crap, because I can go to the gym today, and 2 days from now or tomorrow, I'm not going to be sore. You still there? Okay.
Yeah, I'm still
I
here.
heard something. I didn't know if you're still there.
Yeah, somebody dropped off, but I'm still here.
It helps with a bunch of different things. So It's taken me a long time.
Okay, I got to ask. I'm sorry. I got to ask. What is this stuff called?
Keto OS.
Keto OS?
Yes.
Yes. I'm going to have more information on this on my Facebook page. I'm also in the video suite. It's spelled Keto. Keto, that's the first word. Second thing is OS. And it's helped me a lot, too. It's helped me. It's given me a lot of energy and a lot of boost. I hope I don't get in trouble with Rich for talking about it, but it's something that's helped. It's a good supplement. Still there, Manny?
So, yeah, I'm still here. So, between it's mind over matter, between eating right, exercising, whether it's doing 10 jumping jacks a day or going for a full-blown workout at the gym and taking this product, I've been able, me personally, I'm not a doctor, I'm not telling anybody what to do, but for me personally, this is what's helped me get off the medication, and this is what's helped me feel better about myself. And now, I mean, how many times have I told you, Josh, if you ever need somebody to talk to, call me anytime?
Right, always.
So if I could help one person out there, selfishly I want to feel good about myself. Unselfishly, I want to help as many people as I possibly can.
Yes, definitely. So you know what we want to do now? We got a few minutes. I want to open up the lines. My mom keeps chomping at the bit. She has all these things she wants to ask you. She keeps smacking me. But I'll let her go first. But if you're on the 6 screens and want to say hi to Manny and give him some support, just go ahead and press *1. If you're on Code Free Network, you don't have to press anything. You just speak. But, Mom, you wanted to ask something?
Yeah, but I'm on mute.
No, you're not.
Can you hear me?
No, we
can't.
Yes.
Oh, she can hear. Okay, hold on.
Hey, Manny. This is Nora. I'm Joshua's mom. Hi. I really enjoyed your conversation. Actually, there's a lot of things parallel that you were talking about. And unfortunately, I'm Joshua's mom, and I'm the one who brought him in. And, of course, I feel guilty and all that, with his childhood and whatnot. So I'm trying to move forward. But what I want to ask you, how did you, realize, because your mom and your dad were there, this is a bunch of nonsense, I'm leaving at such a young age, because, being 19, 20, you're still developing.
It just didn't add up. A lot of things just, in a common sense world, it just didn't make sense to me. A lot of their doctrines, a lot of their teachings, one example of something that was minor but kind of woke me up was, in the Bible, Jesus says, "Come as you are," correct?
Right.
I witnessed an elder give another brother a 10-minute lecture because he had just gotten off of work and forgot to bring a tie.
Oh, that's so familiar. They did that, the same thing with my son. He just came out of work, and he was sitting in the back, down in his work clothes, and they were looking at him, he was, less than nothing, because he didn't have his suit and his tie.
Right.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, that was one of the very, very small, and I still remember that elder's name. I could still see his face, and I still remember my buddy, and still remember his name. There's a lot of different vivid things that just didn't make sense to me. The other one that I could never understand, I mean, people could try to explain to me, but the whole disfellowshipping thing never made sense.
Sense, right?
And anybody that it does make sense to is just heartless.
Me and my son, it's only me and my son, so we have a very close relationship. And I always turn to him when someone was doing something wrong or on the cusp of being disfellowshipped or reproved and whatnot. We always told each other, that's when you're supposed to have the love. If you're going to save your brother, that's the point, not turn your back on him. So that was one of the points I felt that was not right either. But you know what? You're so indoctrinated and says, well, they know more than you. They must have a reason. And when I came in the late 70s, early 80s, you really didn't hear too much of the governing body. It was vague. Right. So you kind of thought, yeah, this is the word of God. But now, it's like they're all over the place. They're rock stars. You know their names. You know where they live. You know what you even know what kind of watch they wear.
Right, because everything's so visible.
Yeah, they're not invisible anymore. They're not anonymous. So yeah, that kind of stuck in my craw a little bit, even though I just recently came out. But it was a while since I was having thoughts. But I don't know if it was you when you started going on, but I was scared. And that dream about Armageddon, I still think about it. I still think maybe I'm not right.
You know what's funny is that I was driving to work today. I had to be in the office today, so I've been up since very early in the morning, and I'm driving my truck. It's pitch black outside. I've got the radio off, and I'm like, what if they're right? What if they're actually right? And then I snapped out of it quick and turned the music on and blasted it, and I'm like, okay. Roll down the window and drank some water and snapped out of it because we all know they're not right.
Yeah, but they still have a hold on me. I don't know.
Well, you only just left a few months ago, so.
It takes time. I've been out almost 15 years and I still have those thoughts.
But what gets to me is that you had to move from one state to another.
I didn't have to.
Your parents were out. Is there because there were a lot of witnesses that you knew around the area?
I did a lot of dumb things aside from being a witness that made me want to leave the state. There was just a lot of people in my circle of friends that I just didn't want to associate with anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I was heavy into drugs at one point, and I just couldn't face those people.
You needed a fresh start.
I just needed a fresh start, exactly. I wasn't running from anything. I paid everybody back that I owed money to, so that wasn't the issue. I just wanted a fresh start and go somewhere where I didn't know anybody and I didn't know where to cop,
Exactly. Now, Manny, I have to warn you. I am my mother's son. Every time it's time for her to say hi or give support, she starts the interview all over again. So I'm like interjecting. I'm stepping in here because she'll have you spilling your guts and saying your whole life story. Rick, I know it's 5 o'clock. Can I have just like a couple more minutes just to see if anybody else wants to say hi to Manny?
Yeah, go ahead, Josh. Go ahead for another 10 minutes, and then we'll go to Watchtower Lies, Frauds, and Deceit coming up next.
Okay, so if anybody else is out there wanting to say hi to Manny, please, now's the time to speak up. If you're on Six Springs, press *1. If you're on Cult Free Network, you could just go ahead and start talking now. Go ahead.
Hello, Manny?
Yes.
Hey, it's Yvette. Hi, Dave. How are you?
Hey, how are you?
Good. Isn't it funny, like we were talking this morning, a lot of things that he said, I pretty much said a lot of the same things to you this morning.
Yeah, and I want to say before our interview, when you do finally decide to come on, Ms. Yvette.
Well, I'll just say the one thing, and I won't spoil my interview, but about the Hispanics and the Latino community, how we are different versus the others, like it's just a little different. Remember how we had that conversation today?
Yeah, we're not saying we're better or worse. We're just saying it's a different culture.
Yeah, it's a different culture, yeah. And how, like, even if you're just associate or just fellowship, like, a lot of your family members will still talk to you.
Right.
Hey, Yvette, this is Nora. I just want to say hello. I don't want to cut you off.
No, that's okay. How are you?
Okay.
Yeah, and that's one thing that I never really understood is how could one organization under one umbrella with so many different languages and cultures have so many different rules?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that does.
But even though on paper all the rules are the same, but they enforce it differently based on the culture of where you're at or what language group you're in.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Exactly. I mean, was it Rwanda and Mexico back in?
Yeah, it was Malawi and Mexico.
Malawi and Mexico. That's what it was. I'm sorry. Yeah, there's the point made for us by their own documents that are now available to us.
Yeah, for those that don't know what he was talking about, in Malawi, the Friends there were under pressure by the government to have a government party card, like a political party card identifying themselves, and the society forbid the witnesses from doing that, and that caused a lot of people to be persecuted, raped, killed, pillaged.
They went through a lot of persecution. A lot of people died. Thousands of witnesses died. The same issue came up in Mexico, and in Mexico, the witnesses were allowed to pay off government officials to get a military card signed saying that they did certain amount of hours of marching. So it was like a double standard where the brothers in Africa had to pay for their lives for the same thing, versus the brothers in Mexico were able to not have to go through that persecution. But when you really think about it, if you have a Social Security card, it's the same exact thing. And in this country, the law is that when you're 18, no matter what religion you're in, you still have to register for the military. So it was just a crazy double standard that caused a lot of people's lives. So we could chalk that up to more lives that were lost due to this cult, not just the blood transfusions, but because of this, the persecution, the suicides, and so forth.
Correct.
Hi, this is Becky Williams. Say hi, Manny.
Hi.
Hi.
Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for the support. Anybody have any questions for Manny or anything they'll want to say? Now's your time. Speak up.
So now, what are you? I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm just saying hi to Josh. It's Rochelle from Milwaukee.
Hey, Rochelle, how you doing? What do you think about Manny in his interview? How's he doing today?
I thought it was good. I enjoyed listening to it. It was really good. I know there was just somebody who was about to say something right before I spoke.
I think that was Deborah. Were you about to say something?
Excuse me?
Somebody else was about to say something. Go ahead.
I think I was going to ask something, but I forgot now.
Okay,
boy,
sorry about that. Sorry about that. You know what? Go ahead.
If anybody wants to contact me offline, I'm easy to find on Facebook. You can send me a message. Any questions anybody might have. If anybody needs.
Don't you have a website, Manny?
No, not yet. Not yet.
Now, Manny is a very, very, very great inspiration. He's also a fitness guru. He's becoming a fitness guru. He's very modest. He'll probably get mad at me for saying that, but he's really transformed his body. He promotes his Keto OS supplements, but he does a lot with fitness and nutrition. He's part of the PTSD group, JW's Real Understanding for PTSD, Anxiety, and Depression. He's in the XJW Breakfast Club group. So many of you are in those groups. You could definitely get a hold of Manny that way, friend him, and get some advice or tips if you ever want to. And one of the things I want to start doing, I really want to promote as much as possible healthy living, healthy eating, exercise. We have some JWs that are going to be coming on the show that are like Manny, that have really used what they eat and the lifestyle, daily living, to really help with the healing and recovery after leaving the Watchtower. It makes a big difference on how you feel. I think, Manny, you were telling me earlier today about something that happened and how you felt after eating pizza. Well, maybe you can repeat that.
Goodness. The other day, this was like 2 or 3 days ago, I got home really late from work. I didn't feel like going somewhere to sit down. I wanted something quick, so I ordered a couple of slices of pizza, and I slept like crap and woke up the next morning I was lethargic. I felt like a zombie. It was hard for me to get going, but I knew what I had to do in order to get out of that funk, and as much as I hated it, I ended up going to the gym at 4:30 in the morning, and probably 10 minutes into being there, just from associating with some of the other people that are there that see you at that time, even just a wave, a nod, a smile goes a long way. Hop on the treadmill, start getting that blood flowing, start getting that heart racing, and was able to get myself out of that funk.
You do feel much better when you go to the gym, and I think you get your endorphins going and everything when you're feeling depressed.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
He took another one.
You know, it's funny that you had mentioned about a lot. It seems like a common core that a lot of the friends a lot of them are very depressed, and a lot of the medication that you had referred to, it seems very common among a lot of the friends. And I kind of noticed a little pattern. Just my observation in the years that I was affiliated with the Witnesses, a lot of the sisters, and not to be mean or anything, but a lot of the sisters that didn't want to go to the meetings anymore for whatever personal reasons, it seemed like all of a sudden they had all these ailments.
Right.
And they were very sick, they were ill, they were depressed, they were on antidepressants and everything. And it seemed like, you know, and then that, I don't know if that was like their reason, their excuse at that point not to have to go to the meeting, because they really didn't want to go to the meetings, but they weren't able to articulate that, or they weren't able to express that or be truthful about it. So they developed all these anxieties and depressions and OCD and everything. And a lot of the sisters, you know, or even brothers, you know, were on medication because of that, because really they weren't happy being in the truth anymore, and it was just difficult for them to.
And I know. I'm sorry. Go ahead. And I know a lot of. I know a lot of sisters that actually got to the point where they were so bad that they couldn't even go to work anymore because they couldn't function. So now they're collecting disability. There you are, 25, 30, 35 very young women on disability because of depression.
Yeah, yes, and a lot of it's related to the truth, because they just couldn't do anything. Everything was you weren't allowed to do anything.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm glad I'm not the only one that still slips and calls it the truth.
Yeah. The truth, the so-called truth. But one of the things I want to say before I forget, one of the few things that we were ever allowed to do as witnesses, and they're tightening in the news about that, was go out to eat.
Eat. I was just going to say that. Eat. That's all we ever did was eat. Every break. You got a break. 15 minutes. Eat. Dunkin' Donuts.
Eat. If you have a gathering, eat. If you wanted to go out on the town, it was like go to a restaurant and eat. You know what I'm saying? In the Spanish, and I'm sure in the Portuguese, you got to wait with a little more. You could go out salsa dancing every once in a while, but everything was eat.
After the meeting,
and,
go for wings.
You know, it's a very unhealthy. It's not like we're eating healthy. You know.
After having lunch at the assemblies, I would volunteer to go and get people coffee at Dunkin' Donuts just so I had a valid excuse to show up late at the assembly. And I always made sure there was at least one elder that I was getting a cup of coffee for.
Yep. And so that doesn't translate into having a healthy lifestyle.
No.
So Rick, how do you think we did? How did Manny do today?
Well, Manny did excellent today. In fact, I heard him saying earlier that he went to a Portuguese congregation. If you're on the video suite right now, it's amazing, kind of like funny he even said that, because this morning I was in downtown Lowell, Massachusetts, and I ran across a couple of witnesses on the sidewalk. There's a picture of them. I asked them if I could take their picture. They were knocking on a door. No one came. And they're from the Portuguese congregation in Lowell. Now, Lowell, Massachusetts has a really high concentration of Portuguese people. They have over 20,000 people, but the congregation has 18 people in the Kingdom Hall. So I talked to these guys for a while. You know, they're relatively new in the so-called truth, but they were Portuguese. They had Portuguese. I asked them if I could get some magazines. They said all they had was Portuguese magazines. But, you know, they can speak English well. And I said, I said, you know, I know a lot of witnesses, but have you guys ever checked the history out of the Watchtower? Do you realize what's going on in that organization right now? And so they're looking at me like I got a hole in my head. And I said, you know, there's a lot of things I want to share with you. I'll be very honest with you. I used to be one of Jehovah's Witnesses. They said, oh, you're a former witness? I said, yeah. They said, well, you're an apostate. I said, have you
they just came right out and told you that, huh?
Yeah. So they really get nervous. You know, I took a picture. They didn't know at that point that I was an apostate, so they didn't like the idea of me having the picture after I told them I was an apostate. But anyways, I said, you ought to really check out, are you guys aware of all of the sex-perverted pedophiles and molesters you have in that organization. And they said, oh, we've been hearing that, but that's not the truth. We report everyone that does that in the congregation to the police. I says, no, you don't. I said, did you listen to the Australian Royal Commission? Do you know who Jeffrey Jackson is? They don't really, they weren't connecting with that. I said, well, he's one of the governing body members. Check it out. Jeffrey Jackson, Australia. Punch it into YouTube. He's one of the big wheels talking about how they've been covering some of this stuff up, you know? So anyways, they left, and then they met with their group, and they had such a great time saying, hey, we just met an apostate. You know, he followed them a little
you
bit.
heard that? Oh, my goodness.
It was like
too funny.
It was like finding a bald eagle or something, you know. It's unreal.
Oh, so Rick, you went full circle, Rick. You talked to some JWs who called you an apostate from the Portuguese, and now you got to meet a Portuguese apostate.
There you go.
Well, there it was. That's why when Manny came on, it got my thinking. There you go, full circle.
Great.
Manny, good job today, and good to hear from you on here. I know you're all over the place on Facebook, and you've been doing a good job. Just keep up the good work.
I appreciate it. Oh, and by the way, Truth Be Told will be translated into Portuguese. I don't know exactly when. I got to follow up with Gregorio.
Oh, nice.
But there's a Portuguese XJW that he interviewed, and it was a lot of fun working with Gregorio on that project.
Oh, very good, Manny. Now, look at that. There's people asking on here for your Facebook information. So why don't you let people know how they get a hold of you on Facebook? I see someone writing on the video suite here.
It's easy. My name, Manny, M-A-N-N-Y. Last name is Mimoso, like the drink, but with an O. So it's
that's
M-I-M-O-S-O.
Okay.
Yes.
Did someone say something? Want to say something? Go ahead. I just heard somebody else on there. Go ahead. Well, I guess not. Well, very good, Manny. Good job. And Josh did a good job. We're glad to have you here on the sixth screen today. Thank you, Manny.
Appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
All right. Bye. Okay, Rick. So I guess I'm gonna let you take the reins here. I'm done. Maybe if you want, for all my listeners on the Cult Free Network, that's the end of the interview. If you want to continue to listen to shows, there are shows that are going to be playing nonstop all the way up until tomorrow morning on the 6 screens. So I'll let Rick give you the number to the 6 screens to dial in if you want to continue to listen in to the network.
Okay. In fact, if you're on the Cult Free Network, come on right now. This is the number 712-432-8710. And just dial the PIN. They're going to ask you for a PIN number 9925. But if you guys haven't tried out the video suite, give that an honest try. It's very easy to get in. You can listen to the program in there. You can participate in live chatting. You can see some of the pictures that I'm putting up on the 6 screens video suite. So go to this video suite. It's very easy. Go to the 6 screens of the Watchtower website, www.6screensofthewatchtower.com. Scroll down on the home page. There's a dark pink link. It says click here for video suite, and that'll bring you in to the video suite. Just follow the prompts. Now, don't worry about it. You're not going to pop up on video. No one's going to see you. No one's going to know who you are. You can put a fictitious name in there. But come on to the video suite and see Josh. He's on here with us. You'll see me here. You'll see some other people coming on during the night. So by all means, if you can muster up the courage and come on to the 6 screens video suite, it would be wonderful. Hey, we're going now with a special edition of Watchtower Lies, Fraud, Scandal, and Deceit.